On a bus, four young troublemakers were teasing a girl. The girl, however, boldly claimed that her age was actually greater than the combined ages of all four of them. One of the troublemakers, thinking she was joking, began mocking her. This angered the girl instantly, and she scolded him, saying he had no respect for the elderly. Then, out of nowhere, she saw something unbelievable reflected in his sunglasses. She couldn't believe it. She had transformed back into her youthful appearance. Just an hour earlier, 70-year-old Mary had walked by a photo studio and was drawn to a photo of Audrey Hepburn. Wanting to avoid regrets, Mary decided to take a beautiful legacy photo for herself. She asked the photographer to make her look a bit younger in the picture. What Mary never imagined was that this simple photo session would miraculously turn her back to her 20-year-old self. Panicked and confused, Mary rushed back to the photo studio to find out what had happened. But when she arrived, all she found was a restaurant, and the owner claimed that there had never been a photo studio on that street. Worried she might scare her family, Mary reluctantly decided to spend the night at a bathhouse. Even when her family called her, she hung up without hesitation. The next day, Mary realized that all of the illnesses that had plagued her for years had vanished, and her body had become incredibly agile. As she was about to leave, she noticed a hunchbacked old woman nearby. In that moment, she began to reflect deeply. Maybe her tragic life had earned her some mercy from God, and this was her chance for rebirth. 50 years ago, pregnant Mary had waved goodbye to her husband as he left for work abroad. But when her child was born, she received the heartbreaking news that her husband had tragically died in an accident. Devastated, she scattered his ashes into the river while caring for her young child. She couldn't understand why fate had been so cruel to her, but life had to continue. To support her child, Mary worked tirelessly. In the leaner days, she would scavenge for vegetable scraps just to fill her stomach. The hardships of life wore down her frail body and spirit, but for her child, she pushed on without complaint. Eventually, she raised her son to adulthood and helped him become a respected university professor. However, in her later years, Mary's personality became increasingly stubborn and irritable. She often got into arguments with the neighbors over minor issues. At home, she clashed regularly with her daughter-in-law, mainly because Mary spoiled her grandson. Her daughter-in-law felt that this overindulgence would create bad habits in the child, but Mary felt her way of raising children was just fine. After all, her son had turned out to be a successful professor. After one particularly heated argument, her daughter-in-law suffered a heart attack. When she woke up in the hospital, the first thing she said was, "Mary, get out of my room." For the sake of family harmony, after much discussion, Mary's son decided to send her to a nursing home. But Mary overheard their conversation and couldn't believe her own child would treat her this way. At that moment, overwhelming sadness flooded her heart. She sat helplessly at a bus stop, feeling abandoned, as though she were a child left behind. That's when she decided she wanted to take a legacy photo for herself. In this very coincidence, she was miraculously transformed back to her 20-year-old self. This time, she made a decision. She would live a life of adventure and joy, and she would do it for herself.